tell us your full name?
Okay, I'm Carlos McLean.
Tell us about your PAAAA experience.
Okay, my PAAAA experience has really been very positive. I became acquainted with this organization probably in 1976 when I first finished grad school. And I was looking for work. And I came over here to Peralta and I met three people, Odell Johnson, Christine Johnson, and John Green. They met with me, looked at my resume, and just said, "Oh, we have to get you." In the meantime, things didn't happen right away, but there were events that took place. There were times when I got a chance to meet other members who were starting the organization then. And from that point on, it was always, "Carlos, you need to come and be part of this. This is an organization that I think will benefit you, and you are young at that time. You will be able to benefit PAAAA." And so what I did is I just joined immediately, came to the meetings, met with people, and my networking system just grew and grew. That was the thing that was probably the most impressive. And when time came for me to get a job, I had had enough time to meet with people and talk and actually practice interviewing, learn more about the different positions that were being advertised here, and see where I could fit. And so from that point on, it was like I was automatically sold into this program. I bought into the philosophy, and what was most important was the fact that we did focus on African Americans. I was one of the younger ones coming in, but there was a real push to get people in and getting African Americans into different positions, and I came in as a faculty member. Definitely was a benefit for me. My experience after that was I was mentored throughout up to this day, and I have just given back. So I give back to the organization, I give back to the students, and with new faculty, with new staff, and with new administrators who come on board, I do my best to just say, "Welcome, is there anything I can do to help you?" If they're not part of this organization, I make sure that they understand, because had it not been for PAAAA, and at that time it was the Peralta Association, and we were the Council on Black American Affairs, it was this association that made it possible for most of us, and I say most of us, African Americans, to actually set foot in Peralta. This was the door, this was the vehicle that was provided, and the doors were open so that we could show what we could do and help to build the district, help to build the colleges, and obviously build the organization.
I'm Adrienne Riley, and I'm retired from Laney. I was a counselor in the district, and I worked at both Vista, when it was called Vista, College of Alameda, and Laney. And I've remained in PAAAA because I think it's really, really important. The PAAAA members welcomed me when I came as a part-time faculty member, and I think that it has the potential and has done wonderful things. We've had orientation for new students. We naturally have the annual scholarship. We've had workshops for African Americans that are interested in working part-time in the district. We encourage our members to be on search committees. We try to help with how to market and reach our community to have African Americans both in faculty, administration, and staff. And so I think it's really important. I think we should, it's part of our responsibilities as a professional, as an African American in our community, to take responsibility for our workplace and make sure that it's addressing the student issues. And one other thing I'm really, really proud of is for many years there's been an achievement gap with African American students. And we start a program, stop a program, people change, and through this chancellor we've been able to establish Mosier programs at all 4 schools. They're in different phases. But that's what we ask for, something to be institutionalized and be consistent and stable. So I'm really proud of that achievement. And I think the potential in PAAAA is limitless. It just depends on who are active members. And so I encourage people to join.
Let me ask you one more thing.
Yes.
You always say this in the meetings. People don't know, they don't understand how we have to keep this going because they don't get everything that you all have done.
Well,
Comment on that.
I've always been a believer that I stand on someone else's shoulders. I've never thought I got somewhere on my own. So for instance, when I joined the district, I had African Americans mentor me and welcome me and help me be a stronger professional and help me understand the issues in the district that need addressing. So I think that wherever you go, whatever kind of work you do, that's a responsibility as an African American. So this organization is an opportunity to give back and make sure that you're taking care of your responsibility.
Well, I joined PAAAA at its inception. The then Chancellor Peralta, was instrumental in forming the National Council of Black American Affairs, which is a part of the national, and we were the first, first chapter formed. And I've served as PAAAA's secretary for about 15, 20 years. Because of that experience with PAAAA, I sat on the Western Region Board of the National Council of African American Affairs. And it's just been a pleasure working with the folks in Peralta, assisting the students, sitting in positions where I could help new people, new faculty come on board. So that's been good.
Why is that something you look forward to doing?
When I started in Peralta, there was not a very diversified staff. And so that's why PAAAA was essential. We needed to bring people that look like us to relate to the students. And so that's been a very function that I was very involved in and enjoyed doing.
You know, there's not a whole lot of opportunities where you can actually be involved in making change in youth, and this is an opportunity where you can make a change in youth and young adults' lives. I think that from influencing policy at Peralta and also providing them with scholarships, you really see the first-hand experience and get to work. What am I saying? You really get to mold and be a part of the changes, not just putting in a ballot and voting, but you're really advocating, and you see the results from that, which is an exciting opportunity. So since I've been a part of PAAAA, I have been part of the scholarship committee. We have given out 6 student scholarships. They have all gone to college. They're either currently in college or have graduated college. So it's just an exciting opportunity to have about 3 or 4 of the people you work with go to Cal, go to the University of Oregon, go to Mills, and one is finishing up their master's. And it makes me feel good that I have a small role in that, and that we can continue that. So it's a tradition that we really need to continue. That's why you should join PAAAA. That's why you should be a part of PAAAA and take action.
Well, I'm very excited to talk about PAAAA. PAAAA is one of my favorite organizations because of its historical context. I met recently with Mr. Percy Young, who was one of the founders of PAAAA, who shared with me how PAAAA got started. However, it's important to know that there is a national organization called the National Council on Black American Affairs. That organization is national, affiliated with the Association of American Community Colleges. PAAAA was born before that organization. PAAAA was the impetus for that organization to get started. So all of us, I wasn't here at Peralta before I started in California, but I learned early on that PAAAA has been there. Also, it's important to know that PAAAA is one of the few organizations like this at a community college district. We do have regional organizations of the National Council on Black American Affairs. We do have the national organization, but we have very, very few organizations that are dressed like PAAAA. So this is really a great tribute to those who founded PAAAA, but also to those who have continued to value what PAAAA can do to really help elevate the achievement of African Americans. So that's one of the reasons why I believe that it is incumbent upon all of us to make sure that PAAAA exists and that PAAAA continues to flourish, for us to be involved in it, to contribute for scholarship to students, and to continue to make sure that it has its historical place in higher education, because it is worth it, and I'm very pleased to be a member of PAAAA.
I applied for the PAAAA scholarship because I saw it as an opportunity for me to continue to help my family as far as getting more resources for us to be able to pay for school. These days, school is something that is an expense, and it's something that you definitely need to have an investment in. And every single opportunity in which I can get to help my family and myself be able to pay for schools, that's what I'm going to do.
And your future, tell us about your plans. You're about to graduate and so forth.
Yeah, so I'll be graduating this month. I will be definitely attending the African American graduation as well as the PAAAA Community College, Laney College graduation on the 27th. And I'm just excited. I will be going to Azusa Pacific University, where I will major in business management as well as minor in church and family ministry. So I'm extremely excited to do that.
And what do you think about PAAAA providing this opportunity for you to get this going?
I think PAAAA is definitely something that has helped me. It's going to definitely be something that I take with me along the way. I'm extremely just privileged just to be able to get it. It's something that once I saw what it was for, how it was able to represent themselves as an organization, I said that this is something that I definitely want to apply for. That's something I definitely feel like can help me going forward with my education.
I was first introduced to PAAAA Association of African American Affairs as a young faculty member back in the late 70s when I first started the district. And you had some, what I call elder statesmen at that time said, you need to become involved. And once I found out what the goals and objectives of the organization were, coming from the city of Chicago, I felt very committed to sharing that. And as a professional educator, I knew that was important, especially for African American students. So I got indoctrinated early, because also they had the national convention out here over in San Francisco. I got to see the leaders. I got to sit in on some workshops. Also, we had a regional workshop out on Hegenberger at the then Hyatt that was out there, that's now torn down. So I just was really introduced to it early, and I really liked what it stood for, and I wanted to be committed and involved.
Why should someone support PAAAA?
Well, they should support PAAAA because if we're professional educators, there is a give back to that to me. And I think that's the reason why we like Sankofa, because you're supposed to help one. You're supposed to not just look back, but you're supposed to lift them up. And people in the PAAAA system have been very generous, and they're not all African Americans either. There are colleagues of all persuasions. So they realize that commitment. That's why we have so many scholarships. PAAAA's just not the only one. You know, I'm sure Puente has theirs, the union gives out theirs, the district even has some. So, and each college gives out scholarships. So it's just being committed to our type of student. Think in terms of why we are community college instructors. Most of our student population is made up of individuals that have been recently turned on to education and are economically disadvantaged, and this may be their only way of getting an education or a career started or being able to transfer. So there's a need. I mean, you can't work at a community college and not understand that need.
I would say that we are stronger together, and that the more of us that join and really are active, the more we can do with each other and for the school and for our students. I would even like to be more involved than I am, and I need to make some arrangements to fit that in better. But I think that all of us need to get to know each other, need to support each other, and need to enjoy ourselves together. And this organization is an opportunity to do that.
And then if someone said, well, it's just, I don't have the time, or it's just not for me, what would you say to that?
Well, I understand the time thing. It is a challenge, but I think the meetings are only once a month, and it can be a couple hours. And hopefully there'll be activities or events that we can do together in the future so that, it's not just about a meeting, but it's also about coming together and getting to know one another and creating a stronger bond among us.
Talk about the founding of PAAAA. When you talk, look at me.
Sure. Actually, we actually started after a period of heavy political hierarchy stuff in which our black chancellor at that time, Dr. Godbold, had been, released. And all the African American faculty, which he helped generate, felt very hopeless. And we were demoralized, and we went through a period because there was a lot of political things going on. And one day, I asked Dr. Cecilia Arrington, who was African American Studies professor, if we could utilize her home to try and get a gathering of our people together and to just think about what we could do to make ourselves feel better. And it was very interesting, that first meeting. We only had about maybe 7 or 8 people show up at her home. And being determined that there were more than 7 or 8 people hurting, that I decided that we were going to, at that time, start an organization. And our first meeting, Dr. Cecilia Arrington, who's very spiritual, said a prayer, and we decided that we were going to continue to try to uplift ourselves. And the following month, we called another meeting, and I took the situation in hand, in which I wrote memos to all the African American faculty and staff that we had an organization that was started. And after that memo went out, we had about 12 people show up. So I said, oh, this isn't good. So then we continued it for another 2 or 3 months, in which there was only about 12 people, but I said we had about 30 people today. And that generated some interest. And then we went into staff development period, in which we selected, we were given the opportunity to have topics pertaining to us. And so all the African American faculty and people in our, district attended the staff development, and that generated, our whole existence at that time.
What year was that?
And that was about 1987, about 87, 88. And then we were very active in politics in the state. PAAAA was very heavily represented in terms of African Americans. We became part of the National Council of Black Affairs, African American Affairs. And we had a lot of people who were affiliated with us and went on to presidents at the other colleges. We're very, very dynamic in this area.
So we're almost about, 31 years. And so when you look at PAAAA now and where it's at, what are your thoughts?
When we started PAAAA, we really started it initially as a faculty upright thing to lift up ourselves, but then you needed a purpose, and we had students, we had faculty, we had staff. And so we decided to set up a foundation or a situation where we could contribute to our students. And we knew the students would be here forever, we would not. And so at that time, Dr. Errol Harrison was our business officer, and I asked him if we could have payroll deductions for PAAAA, for the African American Association, if it could be taken out of payroll, and any person who would like to. And that's what started our funding in payroll deduction. That had not been done for an organization like that, but Dr. Al Harrison provided us with that. And so from that, with the funds, the committees and whatever you establish, selection processes and the process to give out scholarships and all of those things. I have no idea at this time how many we've given, but it's monumental. And I'm now at the point where, as we're at this point, we always rise as African American people. And we're going through a period now where many things that generated us at that time is not necessarily what's happening now in some areas. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we're going to turn ourselves into rising again in a different manner. But we're always going to be for our students. And hopefully we can generate some new ways in which we can get scholarships for them.
And I have one more question. What would you say to someone?
Pardon me?
What would you say to someone to get them to join PAAAA or just to support it in general?
Okay. Actually, I think our African American educational system has really been, shall we say, demonstrated with the presidency of Barack Obama, in which many astute, very, very capable and highly educated African Americans have been brought out. And I mean, it's made announcement and it's been very pronounced that education is important. In the West Coast, we need to continue the need that education is very important. The black colleges have, supported that idea and that theme as far as I can remember. And so on the western part of the country, we need organization. So I would say that we should continue and try to enhance our, scholarship program for our African Americans. And as we look at it now, some of the most, as I look now, being retired, and I watch certain television programs and just read certain information, I see how dynamic our African American educated people are. And as I say many times, we have everybody's back. And we'd like to continue to be in the role of being highly educated, even though we are not given our due in so many aspects.
Anything else you want to say?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm just nervous. I don't usually do this.
Thank you so much.
And your name?
Mary Denise Jackson.
Okay, Miss Jackson, 69, 68. I then became director of Fruitvale Development Center, which helped develop Fruitvale into being the Latino community that it is today. That was through Laney College. Then from there, I was assigned to start Vista, which is now Berkeley City College. That was my master's degree thesis.
What was it?
Berkeley City College, which is now, that time it was Peralta College of Non-Traditional Study, then it became Vista College, then it became Berkeley City College.
Oh, I didn't even know it was called that, the Peralta.
I was involved with that.
Okay.
And from there, after about 10 years or so, I went into the faculty at Merritt College, and I taught in the business department there. And I was always into something.
Are you from California?
Pardon me?
Are you from this area, California?
That is very interesting. I grew up, as I tell people, you don't want to talk to them. I'm at the stage in your life where there are many things you think about. And you get somewhat emotional about it because I grew up in Berkeley. And someone asked me about my experiences in Berkeley. And I tell them the most traumatic experience I had in Berkeley was when I was 7 years old and I went to school and all my Japanese friends were gone. And I remember that being a very traumatic time in my life, that all of my little Japanese friends were taken and put in camps. Then when I was 10 years old, I remember the explosion at Port Chicago, and where a lot of African American soldiers, sailors were bombed through the bomb accident there. One of them was my weekend big brother. So I grew up in Berkeley, and that's how Berkeley City College, I guess, has become, a very important part of my life because Dr. Ben Yerger was with me at that time, African-American professor, just my greatest mentor ever. And so I grew up in Berkeley, went to school in Berkeley, graduated from Berkeley, went to San Francisco State, and then I went to University of San Francisco, and that's it. And I've been active in Berkeley because Berkeley is Berkeley. Oakland is Oakland. And I am actually pleased that you all are doing what you do. And I like what's going on, keeping the memory for us, because we've had a lot of people who have been through this. And we just appreciate what you're doing and keeping this in your mind. Thank you.